He is considered one of the most targeted leaders in the world today. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso isn't under threat because of tyranny or oppression. Rather, it's his refusal to submit to Western influence, to old power structures, to those who have long dictated Africa's destiny. From Washington to Paris, powerful global players are desperate to see him gone. Inside his own nation, whispers of betrayal echo through the halls of power. And across Africa, some leaders see his defiance not as inspiration, but as danger. What exactly is Traoré's crime? It's not brutality. It's not corruption. It's independence. He has rejected the influence of foreign nations, reignited a sense of national dignity, and made it clear that Burkina Faso will prioritize its sovereignty above all else. That stance has rattled those who benefit from a subdued and divided Africa, and for that reason, powerful forces want him silenced forever. But Traoré is not backing down. In the face of escalating danger, he's making decisive moves to protect himself and what he represents. He's reshaping his inner circle and establishing a new kind of security network, one that signals just how serious the threat has become. This isn't just politics anymore. It's survival. It's war. Within just 2 years of taking leadership, Traoré has faced over 15 assassination attempts. That's more than most leaders endure in a lifetime. He lives under constant threat, with barely a moment to breathe. The string of coup attempts isn't coincidental, it's systematic. He's not just a president anymore. He's become a symbol of resistance, of a rising soul, and of a future in which Africa decides its own fate. While some dismiss this chaos as the typical instability of military regimes, a deeper question remains. Why is Traoré under fire more than other military leaders in the region? Why have his counterparts in Mali, Chad, Gabon, or Niger not been met with the same aggression? The answer lies in what he represents. He's not just another officer in uniform. He's leading a revolution both politically and ideologically. As the head of the Sahel States Alliance, Traoré has positioned himself at the forefront of a broader movement that challenges neo-colonial dominance. His speech at the Russia-Africa Summit didn't just win applause. It sparked a fire among Pan-African thinkers across the globe. His conviction, his clarity, and his refusal to compromise have turned him into a beacon for those who believe Africa must chart its own course, and that, more than any policy or speech, has made him a target. One particularly chilling moment came on April 16, 2025, a date that could have rewritten Burkina Faso's future. Another failed coup, another close call. But the plot didn't vanish, it simply evolved. The masterminds behind the attempt didn't disappear into the shadows, they crossed borders. Intelligence reports indicate they've regrouped in Ivory Coast, a country now accused of quietly working alongside France to weaken Burkina Faso's sovereignty. There, the coup plotters found not enemies, but collaborators protected by foreign interests and given space to plan their next strike, expected before the end of June. Faced with this dangerous reality, President Traoré didn't waste time. He launched a counteroffensive not with bombs, but with strategy. Insiders call it the lockdown doctrine, a sweeping overhaul of his security infrastructure. It's not just about hiring more guards or increasing patrols. It's about re-engineering how power operates around him. Loyalty, not rank, is now the highest currency. Every protocol, every routine, every face in the room has been scrutinized and reassessed. One of the boldest moves was the complete reconstruction of his presidential guard. In an environment where betrayal could come from within, Traoré couldn't take chances. Those suspected of wavering loyalties were quietly removed. In their place came only those whose allegiance had been proven not through words, but through action, and even that wasn't enough. Each new guard was subjected to a rigorous vetting process that went far beyond the standard. Investigators dug into school records, family ties, political leanings, and even foreign contacts. Nothing was off limits. Only those who passed every level of scrutiny were entrusted with the president's safety. Today, that guard isn't just elite, it's loyal to the core. Each member is handpicked, mentally sharp, and prepared for the worst. But Traoré wasn't finished. The betrayal of key insider Barry Abdrain highlighted another deep vulnerability: Burkina Faso's outdated communication systems. These weaknesses allowed sensitive military data to leak to hostile groups without detection. That flaw has now been addressed, encrypted. State-of-the-art systems have been deployed across the national security infrastructure. Every message is monitored, every transmission tracked. Any soldier caught leaking information will face swift and unforgiving consequences. There will be no more second chances. Adding yet another layer of defense, Traore has reactivated and repurposed the Office of Internal Counterintelligence. Once focused solely on external threats, the agency now monitors from within. Its new mission: watch everyone. Ministers, generals, commanders, even local police officers are no longer above scrutiny. Trust is earned, not assumed. As the battle lines shift, Traore continues to walk a tightrope. He's not just preparing for another coup, he's preparing for something bigger. The revolution he leads threatens to rewrite the rules of power on the African continent, and that has made him both a hero to the people and a threat to the establishment. He knows the next attack is coming. The only question is when. But one thing is certain, this time, he's ready. Across Burkina Faso, the atmosphere is shifting. Political loyalties are being scrutinized like never before. Anyone not fully aligned with the vision of President Ibrahim Traoré is swiftly reassigned, removed, or relocated away from key centers of power. To some, these moves may appear excessive, even paranoid. But in a region where betrayals often come from within, suspicion isn't just survival, it's strategy. The country's history speaks volumes. Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's iconic revolutionary leader, was betrayed and killed by his closest ally, Blaise Compaoré. Traoré hasn't forgotten. He's learning from the past, making sure he doesn't share the same fate. But Traoré isn't relying solely on traditional means of control. He's built a different kind of defense. Early in his leadership, he established the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland (VDP), ordinary citizens trained and armed to defend their communities. Originally formed to push back against terrorist threats in rural areas, the VDP have grown into a powerful parallel force, free from the colonial baggage that still lingers in parts of the regular army. These volunteers stand as a symbol of loyalty not just to Traoré, but to the future of a sovereign Burkina Faso. Following the most recent coup attempt, the role of the VDP has shifted. No longer just protectors of villages, they've become guardians of the revolution itself. Now deployed in strategic zones across the country, they're not just a military presence, they're a message. The people are drawing a line, and they're standing on it. These volunteers now report directly to the presidency. They act as informants, observers, and watchdogs. Any suspicious movement, any unusual meeting, any whisper of conspiracy, they hear it, report it, and help shut it down. What started as a grassroots militia has become a vital part of the country's internal security apparatus. Burkina Faso's immune system against internal threats. Alongside this, the government has quietly rolled out a nationwide biometric registration drive. Publicly, it's framed as a civil campaign, but internally, it's something more. Insiders say the system is designed to track individuals flagged as potential risks. Phone calls, movements, social ties, everything is monitored. Those connected to the April 16th coup attempt are now under constant watch. It marks a new era of surveillance, one that not everyone is comfortable with. Critics, especially from abroad, accuse Traoré of consolidating power through fear and digital monitoring. But for his supporters, these steps are justified. They've seen the attacks, they've lived the instability, and to them, Burkina Faso isn't in a state of normal politics. It's in a state of revolution. Traoré himself has made it clear, Burkina Faso is not pursuing traditional democracy. It's undergoing a transformation. He believes that the world's greatest powers weren't built through elections alone, but through resistance, bold reforms, and national sacrifice. And that's what he's trying to build: a nation not dependent on outside aid or vulnerable to foreign manipulation. But not everyone wants that. There are those inside and outside the country who prefer the status quo. They benefit from the corruption, the insecurity, the chaos. For them, a weak Burkina Faso is profitable. That's why, since taking office in September 2022, Traoré has faced multiple coup attempts. For in the first year alone, despite these threats, he initially showed restraint, choosing not to punish the plotters harshly. But after 2 more attempts in quick succession in late 2023, his patience wore thin. Arrests were made, investigations launched. From that point forward, Burkina Faso found itself in a constant state of internal warfare, not just against terrorism, but against betrayal. One of the most dangerous plots was traced to Paul-Henri Damiba, a former military leader. Now in exile, operating from Togo, he allegedly collaborated with jihadist groups, secured covert support from the Ivory Coast, and activated his loyalists within Burkina Faso's military. The result was devastating: an orchestrated attack on the town of Beatty left scores dead. It wasn't just a territorial assault, it was psychological warfare. Its goal was to discredit Traore, fracture the army's unity, and plunge the nation into chaos. But the plot failed. Some conspirators were captured, others fled. It's become clear the threats against Traore aren't just political, they're existential. A war is being waged, not with open declarations, but with covert operations, betrayal, and disinformation. Foreign actors are stirring the pot, funding dissent, and feeding media narratives. And so Traore's overhaul of the security system isn't just precaution, it's survival. Despite all this, the media remains one of his most formidable enemies. Headlines from international outlets rarely focus on his reforms or his efforts to rebuild security. Instead, they frame him as a dictator, a power-hungry leader clinging to control. But why such a consistent narrative? Why the silence on the country's growing self-reliance? Some say it's strategic. Discredit the leader, and you discredit the revolution. Recently, Western military leaders have accused Traore of using gold revenues for personal protection. Yet the facts tell another story. Since coming to power, he's been redirecting national wealth to rebuild the country's defense and infrastructure. Even if some gold is used for security, how else should a leader protect his nation from the onslaught he faces? Unlike many of Africa's past leaders, Traore doesn't flaunt wealth. No luxury jets, no palaces, no shopping sprees in Paris. He remains grounded, wearing fatigues, staying close to the people, and leading reforms firsthand. That's what makes the accusations of corruption ring hollow. If he were stealing, it would show. Instead, what we see is a leader under siege, still standing tall. The most dangerous accusations have been ethnic ones, claims that Traore has targeted Fulani communities in frustration. These stories spread quickly, especially among diaspora communities. But journalists within Burkina Faso, those with boots on the ground, have found no such campaign. The loudest outrage, once again, comes from outside. Foreign commentators, distant analysts, and global media echo chambers. It's propaganda, weaponized. And here's the real tragedy: some Africans have bought into it. Instead of supporting a rare, strong, reform-minded leader, they turn against him. Meanwhile, neighboring countries like Ivory Coast allegedly harbor enemies of the revolution, fueling the betrayal from just across the border. In the end, Traore isn't fighting just for himself. He's defending a vision, a dream of an independent Burkina Faso that controls its own resources, secures its own borders, and lifts its people out of poverty. But that kind of leadership doesn't come easy. It attracts enemies. And if Traore is taken down, there's a real risk the revolution dies with him. It took decades to find someone with the courage of Sankara. If we lose Traore, how long will we have to wait for the next? He's more than a president, he's a symbol that Africa can lead itself with strength, purpose, and pride. And if we don't protect that symbol, we might be giving up more than just a man. We might be surrendering the dream of a truly sovereign Africa.